Drawing from Nature is owned by Andrea. Andrea is an artist, a professor, and a sketchbook adventurer based in Denver, Colorado, and runs the design studio Drawing from Nature. Kathleen and Aubrey make up Lady, which is a Colorado-based indie folk duo known as Lady, LVDY, but pronounced Lady. Welcome to our digital stage, which means we're going to unmute you guys and you're going to say hello. Andrea, Kathleen, and Aubrey. Woo.
Woo. Good morning.
Good morning.
What's happening? Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having us. This is wonderful. Again, my name is Kathleen.
And I am Aubrey. And if you're wondering how we got to Lady with a V, we flipped the A into a V. V is a historical symbol for womanhood. We sing about peace. As we learned, pizza is in some of our natures.
Yes.
There's two of us, the divine feminine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we met about 8 years ago studying abroad in New Zealand. And then about 2 years ago started Lady. And just, I mean, music is in our nature, and that's what drew us together. So we're so happy to be sharing some stories and some of our history and some songs with you all today.
Awesome. Welcome.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for making time.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. My name is Andrea. I'm just so excited to talk about, some of my favorite things, which are nature, drawing from it, learning from it, exploring it, having fun with your friends, with and in nature. So thank you for being here. We got some cool stuff for you guys today.
Awesome. Would you guys want to just tell us a little bit about yourselves in terms of what inspires you about this topic? And then I know we've got some songs queued up for the audience, and I'll let the three of you take it from there.
I'll get started. In my studio, Drawing from Nature, it's derived in where I find my inspiration. So thinking of, the act of drawing physically with my pencil on a sketchbook, with it out in the field like you see in this photo, to also just connecting with nature on a personal level, just being out there mentally, physically. There's a lot about nature. It's probably the topic I could talk forever about. That's my connection.
I'll go next. Nature has been deeply rooted in my life since I was born. My dad took my sisters and me on runs when we were little and called us his three little ducklings, and he would stop us halfway through, which was great for me because I got a rest, and he'd say, "Hey, check out this plant, or listen to that bird, or look at this tree." And then it sparked me into going to summer camp and exploring the mountains, and then eventually visiting and moving to Colorado, which is where I just fell in love with being outside. And then it also brought me to New Zealand, where Aubrey and I met because we wanted to explore the great outdoors, and it has shaped our music and it's shaped our relationship, and it's ever growing. It's ever growing. So it's been a huge part of my life since I can remember.
Mm-hmm.
And similarly for me, I was born and raised right outside of Denver in Aurora. Any other Colorado natives in the house? And just as long as I can remember, like Kathleen said, I've been outside, and my grandparents lived in Buena Vista in the mountains. So I feel like very early on a connection to the mountains and a connection to this feeling that you feel when you're outside of just, freedom and kind of vulnerable, and your walls are down, and
there are no walls.
Yeah, there are no walls. So again, nature is what led me to Kathleen by wanting to be in New Zealand to explore the nature there. And I just feel so fortunate, so fortunate to live in a place where there's such incredible access to so many different landscapes in nature. So yeah.
I'm going to share our first slide, and you guys can maybe take us into this first song, huh?
Perfect. Someone left a comment in the chat earlier about gratitude. I'm spacing whose name it was, but this is a song all about gratitude.
So wherever you are, Find a comfortable seat if you haven't already, and let's take a deep breath together. Breathe in and breathe out, and find yourself here. Thank you.
I've been losing my mind way too easily. I've been blind to things I usually see. Bending over backwards, trying not to break. I think we can all relate to that right now.
Yeah.
Bending over backwards. Does anybody feel the same? Lean in, breathe in, you're alive. Lean in, breathe in, you're alive. Take me outside to where the lines blur. We can get lost in another world. Wake up in the morning, pack up our things and go. Coffee's getting colder, we better hit the road. Except not now, stay home. Lean in, breathe in, you're alive. Lean in, breathe in, you're alive. Ooh, 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 ooh. I'm alive, you're alive, we're alive, come on. I'm alive, you're alive, we're alive. Ooh, ooh. I'm alive, you're alive, we're alive, come on. I'm alive, you're alive, we're alive.
Head bobbing and swaying is encouraged.
Ooh, I'm alive, you're alive, we're alive, come on. I'm alive, you're alive, we're alive. Ooh, ooh, I'm alive, you're alive, we're alive, come on. I'm alive, you're alive, we're alive. Ooh, ooh. Lean in, breathe in, you're alive. Lean in, breathe in, you're alive.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
So as we mentioned, that song was just all about gratitude and for this simple thing that we can be thankful for, which is our breath.
In the moment,
In the
and like
moment.
really being in the moment, being able to be grateful for all of the little things. And the biggest gratitude is that we're here. The biggest blessing, the biggest miracle is that we're here.
Yeah. And Dave, do you mind going to the slide before with the artwork on there for me, please?
Yeah, let's see that artwork, baby.
Yeah. I mean, I wanted to jump in. Like, Thank you, ladies. I can just hear that song forever and for always.
Well, you can loop it on Spotify for
I have been. I guess to start us off today, I've been watching people's comments come through, and I saw a couple people. I lost the name already of like coming to tears, and like just hearing that song, and kick us off today talking about nature. I know I asked you guys this song first because I remember the first time hearing this song on my way to go out into nature, and being at a time in my life where, I was busy. I was in at work, I was in my office. I hadn't had that connection to nature in a while. And I just remember hearing those words and crying about how important it was for me to connect with nature, and just the phenomena and the grandness of just the physical part of nature. And I think that's awesome that music and art helps us remember those experiences out in nature. They stay with us.
Absolutely.
Well, and I love the lyric that you chose for this piece, "Take me outside to where the lines blur," because to us, that line is representative of kind of the shedding of the layers. Like when for me, it's this feeling when I'm driving on I-70 or 285 and I like clear the foothills, and there's one turn on I-70 where like the mountain range comes into view, if you know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just this like, it's
exhale,
like, yeah, it's this exhale. It's where the lines blur. And I'm like, I don't have to worry about what's happening in my life right now. I can just be here and I can just enjoy this, and that can be enough.
Yeah, it's when the concrete turns into dirt and all of a sudden the lines on the road don't exist anymore. You're just there, and you can't compare that to anything else. I love it. It's like an exhale. So
yeah. And that's and exactly, it's hard to nature is a big topic, and it's that's why your song just like captured so much of that, of like, what is that feeling when I get into nature, that exhale, that that release. And that, I think, Aubrey, you said it right there, like just being like, what about nature helps us feel like ourselves, and what I know, it's just I just wish for everyone in the group here, like, be thinking about nature, and like, what is your connection to that natural world, the trees, the grass, the ground. I think that is a great starting point for today's talk, especially and peeling back the layers around nature.
Totally. Well, and I think part of what feels so much like an exhale, or what feels so inspiring, is because we are nature, right? Like the same molecules that make up the stars in the sky and the trees and the grass and the ocean, we're made up of the same molecules. And so feeling, at least for me, feeling at my core to be like my truest, most authentic self when I'm in nature, and to be able to, Tom, connection to the water, and to just, again, we are water. So to feel connected to something that's so much bigger than you, but is also recognizing that it is you.
Yeah. It's almost like this instant belonging. Like if this is what we are, then we always belong here. You're always welcome here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Love that. Love.
Yeah. Oh, it's so great. And I think that kind of like, I don't want to jump us into the next song, but your next song that we planned in Just Be really kind of helped me seal all of that big conversation of like connecting to nature, and what does that do for my process, and how has that brought, us together creatively? Why is nature, a common thing for everyone creatively, or why do we all like feel this? I just always curious. And I think the next section, if we want to go into that one, what do you guys feel?
Feels great.
Yeah,
absolutely. As this slide says, nature is the creative fuel. And one of the reasons Andrea and Aubrey and I connected was because we fell in love with her art. And it was like, oh my gosh, it's so, there's a simplicity to it, but it's also like, it pulls you in. And the first collaboration we did together, well, I think actually the first collaboration was your van wall, maybe?
Yeah, so I live in a van.
Down by the
That's
river.
down by the river, because I want to be as close to nature as I can be. But Andrea painted a wall in my van. I wonder if I could pull up a picture somehow. She painted this beautiful mountain mural on the door of my van. So it's something that I look at every morning when I wake up, and I just feel connected to her as an artist, because Kathleen mentioned like the simplicity of it's mostly just lines. A lot of your recent work is now incorporating, you know, like the watercolor feels, but I just love how these lines come to life, and you do it so well. And it's like, I mean, I've been sitting next to Andrea on a ski lift as she's like sketching the ski lift, and then she just puts her sketchbook back in her pocket and, you know, is on her merry way. So it's really cool to watch that creative process unfold in nature.
And I think that's what it is. It's a creative process. I think that's what nature fuels us to be a part of. It's inviting us in and saying, okay, what can you draw from this? Truly, both physically and emotionally. And Aubrey and I created a personalized scent that we sell as some of our merch items. And it's a beautiful lady candle. And so you can burn it, it smells amazing. And we asked Andrea to do the artwork for this candle. And we have 2 scenes that she drew. One is a desert scene with some of these big cliffs, and then the other is a mountain scene. And bringing those 2 together, those 2 like really picturesque simple scenes, and those are the drawings on our candles, which is amazing. And then she did the artwork for Just Be, which is our latest single that we just released a few weeks ago. And we've fallen in love with her, not only her creativity, but the way that it connects to our music. And I love that we inspire each other. That's one of the most exciting things.
Yeah.
And we talk about inspiration too. So nature is an inspiration, but also Andrea's art is an inspiration.
Well, and Stacy, the comment that you put in the chat a couple minutes ago, I think that is entirely why nature for us is this creative inspiration, is because, like you said, it's not trying to be something it's not putting up a front, and it feels like that gives us permission to do the same. So you know, I feel like we write our most honest lyrics when we're in nature, or I'm, you know, when I'm journaling, I'm the most honest with myself when I'm just there, and I can just truly be. Yeah, I can just be.
Yeah, I was gonna say just me. I feel the same. And when Aubrey was saying like pulling out my sketchbook, like putting myself physically in nature and having those experiences, it does help me connect back to that younger self that's always wanted to be out in nature. It helps me find that authenticity and that true voice. And I think that was an excellent comment, and just really into the section of like, how do you now take nature, how do you take these big lessons, these big themes, these big feelings that you get from being in nature and experiencing nature, and how is that your fuel? And I think it's fuel like that. There's multiple routes, like we were saying. There's inspiration, me drawing that landscape or me recalling that memory to create an artwork. And there's also just, you know, how nature makes me feel, how nature makes us feel, and that invitation to, you know, saying your truth in your work.
Well, and I think, I think through that, like wanting to recreate that feeling that nature gives through our music and through your artwork, you know, so when someone looks at a piece of your art, it feels like an exhale, or they listen to one of our songs and it feels like an exhale, or, you know, roots them back to nature.
And that's what I get when I listen to your guys' music and in these pieces created for here, and in a lot of my work, you know, that's why art is important, is it helps us tap back into those nature experiences. I was able to listen to Lean In in my studio, right? Like I'm not out in nature right now, but I was able to listen to that and remember, like have that powerful connection to nature to create my piece. For our next song, you know, I wanted to feel like, what is just me? Like, what is like, when I'm just being me, how can I put that visually? And that's where, like, you know, I feel like I get my best work.
Yeah. When you get to just be yourself.
I get to just be myself.
Should we play Just Be?
Yeah.
Let's do
Did
it.
you want to say something? I feel like we both cut you off.
It's okay. No problem. It's going to come out some way, somehow. What I was going to say is it's not always beautiful, right? The process, the creative process, the fuel, it's messy. It can be really messy. And nature has a way of making the messy turn into something really epic. Like, I learned that bamboo grows underground for years before it shoots up in a matter of a day. And so thinking about like what we plant and what we seed, that can take a really long time to actually bear fruit and to actually grow out of the ground. And there's all these roots and mycelium and connections that we have that actually can take a long time to grow something beautiful. So let's play Just Be.
All right, it's been a minute.
Yeah, it's been a long time since we played this song. So we'll see how this goes. And
I was going to say, give the backstory.
Yeah, great.
Sure.
We wrote this song last year after attending Burning Man, which is a pop-up festival, not festival, it's really a way of living. It's a pop-up city in the middle of the desert. And we rented a house afterwards and were staring into the forest and started writing a song about taking a walk in the woods. I took the long way home to fill the empty spaces in my bones. I got lost amongst the trees, took a shower in the leaves. Ooh, 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 the moonlight lit the way. Oh, my heart, what do you have to say? The moonlight fades the day. My feet are roots, and I am here to stay. Ooh, ooh,
Light through the trees and the birds and the bees and the smells and the sound and the frequencies run deep within me, and I know that I'm free. Join me and you'll see what it is to just be. Join me and you'll see what it is to just be. I took the long way home, and I'm reminded that I am not trees and the birds and the bees and the smells and the sounds and the frequencies run deep within me, and I know that I'm free. Join me and you see what it is to just be. Join me and you see what it is to just be. Join me and you see what it is to just be. Join me and you see what it is to just be. Join me and you see what it is to just be.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Wow. You guys,
It's a long time.
it's, you know, and I think, you know, that song is such a great way to transfer into nature showing up in our work, or the nature of our work. And for you guys, that's creating music. For me, it's creating visuals. And I think, you know, what we've done collectively as artists on our own is really listen to our heart and nature. I love that line, and just be of like, you know, my heart, what do you have to say? I know personally, being connected with nature helps me hear that conversation a little bit better.
Totally.
And then as an artist, and then, you know, how do I want to have others join me in nature? And so in my sketchbooks, in my landscapes, my illustrations, it's this, you know, come join me, come see this nature, come see like what your nature can be. when you just be yourself. It's an invitation to, you know, have people join you, like in your stoke for nature, in your stoke for your art.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think even beyond nature, what we have all been sort of pushed into and guided in this direction with the COVID situation, where we're forced to be home, where we're forced to be, for a lot of people, alone. We're forced to just be with ourselves. And for some people, that's really scary because they've never had to do that before. And they have to just be with their partner. They have to just be with their kids. And what does that really feel like to just be alone? Just be with yourself and take care of yourself and really nurture yourself. And being able, as I am forgetting her name, but someone who said, I took a 5-mile hike by myself. I don't remember the last time I did that. And being able to be outside alone, of like really listening when we're in those moments of quiet. What is our heart really saying? Not the distraction of the screens and the phones and the news, but like, what are we really wanting? What are we really saying if we can listen? And I think nature does such a beautiful, effortless way of encouraging that and inviting us to go there.
I feel like it always gives us what we need, you know, which might be a beautiful sunny day and a seamless hike, but it might also be like a rainstorm and, you know, some conflict and something for us to work through ourselves. And I think that's just the beauty is Mother Nature. She is so wild. Like it sounds obvious, but she's so just wild. And I think, you know, when I reflect on some of the most incredible times that I've had in nature, it's when there was an obstacle to overcome. And then it was, you know, just this, not so much a conquering of nature, but like a harmony that you learn to work with what you're given. And I also just wanted to share, if you guys can see this is the artwork that Andrea drew for our single. So if you go listen to it on Spotify or Apple Music or wherever, you'll see the art front and center.
Yeah, and jumping into that, collaboration has been such a fun part of this creative process. I love to sing, and I've always wanted to be a singer, but being able to collaborate with Aubrey and do this together has been one of the greatest joys of my life. And then to be able to collaborate with Andrea and like we said before, sort of inspire each other and push each other in these directions that are getting more to the core. That's been such a great experience. And I think we've discussed, like, it's part of our nature as human beings is to collaborate, is to not do things alone, because I may have a really wonderful idea, but Aubrey adds texture to that idea, or we create melodies and harmonies and those build on top of each other, and collaboration allows us to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And piggybacking with the collaboration and it being a part of our nature, the more I collaborate in my work creatively, the more I like feel, more aligned with that of, you guys working together. Like, we both have this deep relationship with nature on our own, but as we come together, we're able to kind of join our strengths. And so in collaboration, like really focusing on, what is my true nature? What is my true skill in this? And then seeing someone else's nature and then asking, okay, how do we put these together? It's the best art to me.
Agreed.
Mm.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we have been discussing as we collaborate and look at these different kinds of pieces of our nature, and Dave asked this question at the beginning: what is in your nature? What's deeply in your nature? And then moving through that, how do we nurture that? So how do we continue to water these seeds of creativity and nurture these things? And I have always loved music, and music has been a part of my life since, my parents played music, and I can't imagine my life without it. And being outside helps me continue to nurture that. And then the other thing we talked about was play and fun, like following the fun. And playing outside is like the greatest gift.
Speaking of playing outside, this is creative collaboration at its finest. I think we have arranged for a front yard tour of the city of Denver next Saturday, because something that we're missing a ton is singing music to real humans. It's awesome to do this over Zoom, don't get me wrong, but when we sing live, there's this energy that's cultivated in the place.
It's the human connection, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so due to the guidelines and restrictions that are happening in our city of Denver right now, we wanted to get creative and collaborate with as many people as we could about putting shows on around Denver. So we'll be going, we have 9 different neighborhoods that we'll be playing in people's front yards for like quick 30 minutes. And then we're off to the next neighborhood in lawn chairs and, picnic blankets. So if you're interested in that, let us know, because creative collaboration, all of us together, will be outside in nature, and our happy place.
Yeah, we'll post about this stuff on our Instagram and Facebook too, to keep everybody in the loop. But trying to find ways to continue to share our love of art and our love of music and bringing people together. That's one of the biggest things that we want to do, not just write music and put it on the internet and have people listen to it, but actually have the experience of music, actually have the experience of gathering together. And when COVID hit, it was like, whoa, how do we do our job? How do we literally what we are here to do is to bring people into a room and make them feel more connected. So we hope that you all in your rooms are feeling more connected. But if you're interested in seeing some live music far away from us, we'd love to see you.
Well, and you just brought up an interesting point about COVID not only impacting, millions and millions of people in their careers, but also nature, of like, how do we still get outside and connect to these places that make us feel so alive, where, we can collaborate creatively with nature, but also do it safely. And like, what does that look like in this time? And I think, whether that's watching the sunset or going out for a walk around the block, but just remembering how important it is in this time where it can be so easy to forget the ways that we feel alive in nature, but like finding the little ways to bring those sparks to life
and to take care of her.
Yeah, and I'm going to jump in too, Kathleen. in what you were saying about nurturing your nature. I think that has such a powerful statement that we can all take. You guys just all gave great ideas. You know, how are we, you know, nurturing ourselves? I've always had a sketchbook and a pencil, right? Like I'm never without these things. So creatively, you have to still nurture what your creativity is or what your nature is. And Aubrey gave great examples. Take a walk, look at the sunset. There's so many ways and there's so many opportunities that physical nature invites us to nurture ourselves. And then how do we nurture it? How do we take care of it? And, you know, like, you know, taking care of nature physically, but also just making it a point in my life that I need to go outside, even if it is just for that walk or that quick little nature thing. It can be a small nature dose. It could be a big nature dose, but asking everyone creatively, what do you need to nurture so that you can be yourself, so that you can make your work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I teach voice lessons, and one of my consistent students said to me yesterday, I forget to go outside. All of a sudden I'm in the same room and I'm in meeting after meeting after meeting, and then I'm like, oh my God, I haven't even gone outside today. So one of our practices was go outside, move your body, use your voice. That's not like talking over Zoom. Use your voice and express yourself and find that deep connection, even if it's 5 minutes, because the fresh air is so good for our bodies.
Well, and I think that even goes to one of our lyrics in that last song of Just Be is, the smells and the sounds and the frequencies run deep within me, and I know that I'm free. And so that's that acknowledgement of like the recognition of yourself in nature, and just feeling that. I mean, like literally putting your bare feet on the earth and like feeling the vibrations of the earth through you, and feeling that grounding and
the frequency.
And just that mirror of like, okay, these birds are free, and so am I. I don't have wings, but I'm still free.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really good.
So as we move into the next sort of section of this conversation, COVID has brought up so many different ideas, and along with the heartache and the challenge and the weirdness and the disruption of, you know, the normal, there's been change that also has silver linings. So the silver linings of listening to your heart and finding stillness and quietness, and then also thinking like, wow, how do we really want to connect? How do we really want to live our lives? How do we want to take care of ourselves? How do we want to take care of Mother Nature? There's a lot of resistance. I think a lot of people have resistance to change. And how can we sort of take change and see it as something that is an opportunity to grow, an opportunity to ask more questions, and really, as Andrea said, like nurturing that part of you, and looking at your habits and talking to yourself and creating new experiences. So Aubrey and I wrote a song about change, and it was in the midst of like all of these different things were happening. We were starting and ending, you know, different relationships, and I was figuring out where I was living, and she was figuring out where she was living, and we did a tour through Southwest Colorado mountain towns, and it was hands down the most beautiful experience, because we got to be outside
and because we got to witness the change of seasons. We were in the midst of, I mean, one of the most drastic changing of seasons as things turned from green to yellow to gone. And it felt like we got to chase that change around, and we were just sitting in the middle of this aspen grove when we wrote this song, looking around, these leaves were falling around us, and taking notes of how beautiful change can be. Like that exactly, how can we take change and see it as an opportunity? How can we also see change as a beautiful thing? Because without it, we can't move forward. And, you know, the changing of seasons from fall to winter, then brings spring, and then brings summer, and then we're right back in the cycle. So just this thought that the one constant thing in life is change. And as cliche as that is, really wanting to pull on that and draw from that. So
Yeah,
this is change.
this is a song called Change. Can't seem to find the words to say. Nothing felt like home today. Looking back, looks like nothing's changed. But somehow nothing is the same. Ooh, 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 ooh. It happens slow and all at once. Luscious leaves now turn to crunch. I breathe deep and fill my lungs. One season ending and one has just begun. All of a sudden, 1 week turns to 2. And I'm no longer thinking of you. Change is on the horizon. It's the change. The heat is slowly rising. And those chains don't always have to bind us. But I tell you, change is always gonna find us. And now my home is on the go. Into my heart to truly know. What is it I'm looking for? Always 1 foot in and 1 foot out the door. Ooh, 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 ooh. Yes, Andrea. Change is on the horizon. And it's the change. The heat is slowly rising. And those chains don't always have to bind us. But I tell you, change is always gonna find us. 1, 2, 3, 4. Ooh, can you feel it? It's hard to believe it. You might not see it. These changing seasons. All of a sudden, 1 week turns to 2. And I'm no longer thinking of you. All of a sudden, 2 years turns to 3. Thank you for teaching me.
Oh, you ladies.
Cam, you and your sweet little babe there dancing. That was adorable.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I Ladies, just the inspiration you guys give me, I think is so important for this conversation that we're talking about in change. And especially, I didn't really fully understand that until creating this piece, which for me, creating artwork is a way of thinking through big problems or big feelings. And in creating this piece for change, I shared with you guys, I was actually really struggling. And I think that's a conversation for a lot of creatives right now, is that it's a challenging time to be nurturing ourselves and to be nurturing our ways that maybe were easier before COVID-19, before, change happened. And I was struggling with this piece. This is the lady song of this whole talk that I have not listened to with an experience out in nature. and reflecting and creating those first two landscapes, they came like that. They flowed right out because I did have that nature anchor. I did have that memory with the music and the memory of being in nature. And this one, I was pretty stumped. And I think it's a great lesson for creatives of what does this change open up? And I literally just kept listening to the lyrics over and over. And at the very end, it dawned on me. It was, thank you for teaching me. And I read that as my love letter to nature. like thank you, like nature, you've always been there. You've been teaching me those lessons, even in those times where change was challenging, change was a move, change was something that at the time I wasn't really connecting with. And so this art piece I'm really excited about. This is a combination of 5 paintings that I've done through the course of the last 7 years. So this art, yeah. So I was really stumped. I couldn't think of the landscape or what is similar to the other songs, and I started thinking about change and then nature. And then all of a sudden I was like, holy crap, nature's been there the whole time. And I thought about the first time I drove down 285 when I moved to Colorado, and the changes that were happening within me personally, and then going back down 285, and then the change is different, and the changes in my work. And so this is literally lines from being in the passenger seat on 285. This is, 285 made me I moved to Colorado. This is a big change. This is good.
Well, and it's interesting. It's interesting you say that, because when we play that song live, that's the last line, thank you for teaching me. There's always this sigh or an exhale amongst the crowd. They're like, oh. That feeling of being able to reflect on the change that's happened in your life and using change as a teacher. So,
and in that particular song, it did start about a relationship, and it was the relationship of wow, it's interesting to go through heartbreak and feel this separation and be why is this happening? And then when you come out on the other side and you're like, wow, I learned so much from that.
Yeah.
Thank you for this lesson.
And how important was nature in those lessons of when, I thought about times that I needed to learn to love myself a little bit more.
Yeah.
And in that change, I was there in nature, and I didn't realize it at the time, but that big sigh that you're talking about, you're kind of wow, change is good. And nature does change so easily and beautifully. We all drive out to the Aspens, us Coloradans, like crazy in the fall to witness that change. And, the nurturing part of, even though I wasn't able to be out in nature and nurture my creativity how I would normally like to, there's still that point of, I could still nurture, I could still reflect, I could still, go for a walk in my neighborhood. I think when I was struggling with that piece, I did go sit out in my garden. There are other ways that we could still nurture ourselves so that we can make our work.
I mean, I even love that Tanya is sitting outside right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, what are we doing? All of us inside? Man, Tanya's got it down.
As an audience, should just give these 3 amazing creative humans a big round of applause real quick for their stories.